Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode 306. We are recording this on Sunday, September 22nd, 2019. I'm David Lotz. Joining me this episode is Bobby Jackson.
Hey everybody, what's up?
Yasha Wilson.
Hey, everybody.
And Michelle Hillard.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
What's up, guys? Plenty to talk about.
So many things.
We have seen many things this week. First things first, it is a special day. It's a holiday today.
It is a holiday
yesterday
today.
was Batman Day.
Yep.
And I did nothing for Batman Day.
No, you wore Batman shirt.
I wore a Batman shirt.
It was Batman Day. It's fine.
I wanted to go to a comic book
Why
store.
is there a Batman Day?
I don't know. Is there Superman Day?
Oh, no, it's... Well,
No,
I don't
that's
know.
why I'm kind of like, why is there a Batman Day but not a Superman Day? That I know of. Anyway.
Batman's more popular these days, let's face it.
I have a feeling there probably is a Superman Day, and we're just not aware of it. But I do know that basically it's just that the comic debuted on this day.
So, oh, well, okay. That makes sense.
That's why it's this date.
That it's this date because of that, but to celebrate that actual day, because granted he's more popular, but when you think about it, you're celebrating the day of like essentially kind of a very psychotic guy who goes out and hunts bad guys at night, whereas Superman is like wholesome and he protects the city in a better way. So I'm not a Batman hater, but it's just when you think about it, it's like,
Bobby, I'm sure there's a Superman Day. I'm going to make you feel better about things. I just know that the reason why Batman Day is today, or yesterday, was because that was the release date of the very first issue of Batman episode. Superman.
Well, anyway, today is the 20th anniversary of West Wing when it premiered.
Yes, today is West Wing Day.
Today is West Wing Day. It should be an annual holiday.
It should. Did we put the flag out front today?
annual holiday.
The West Wing flag?
I was thinking more just the United States of America flag, but sure, we should get a West Wing flag. We should hang it.
Yeah.
That'd be so baller. Dude, we're doing that. I'm buying a West Wing flag.
So that'd be no fun. I live on a dead end. No one's going to see it.
What'd you do to celebrate?
I'm going on Amazon right now.
Nothing. I didn't watch any West Wing today. It actually felt
the
like
day's still young.
Hanging out with the kids. It felt like a Lord of the Rings day. It's finally getting, and hear me out here.
It's Florida.
But for Florida, I will say this weekend has been like the beginning of, it's not quite as terrible out right now. It's actually,
I feel
it gives me that false sense of it is somewhat fallish. And I don't know, it just felt like, you know what? I feel like watching Lord of the Rings. I threw on Fellowship of the Ring.
It's been super like, just ever so softly and gently, a slight, I won't even say nudge or a tap, but a slight caress towards autumn in the last like couple of days.
A slight caress. That's one way.
It's what it feels like. There's been a nice caressing towards fall in our temperatures here. And I mean, I'm so excited about it. Like I thought about doing Lord of the Rings today. And it was just funny. Like I left to go run like grocery store errands and I come back and Lord of the Rings is on the TV. I was like, that's what's happening. And I'm even wearing a Halloween shirt. That's how in season I feel today.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you get your pumpkin spice latte already for the year?
Yeah, that's actually.
Oh yeah, that's a Dragon Con thing.
For me, yeah, that's like a Dragon Con thing at this point.
It's like day one of Dragon Con.
It almost always gets released right around Dragon Con, and it's like I wait till go to Atlanta and have it up there.
Yeah.
So you did have it then.
Yes.
So yeah, no. Today was West Wing Day.
No, today was West Wing Day, but I didn't watch any West Wing. But somebody's been watching West Wing.
I have been watching West Wing. So last week for Yasha, since he actually doesn't know.
I'm so excited.
He doesn't know about this. So last week, Yasha, we did this thing where I had created this new little thing called "It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Benjamin." And so
wait, I thought it was "Have Yourself a Merry Little Benjamin."
I thought it was "Have Yourself a Merry Little Benjamin." It's "Have Yourself a Merry Little Benjamin."
Wait, let me do that.
A merry little what?
Merry
No.
little Benjamin.
Okay. See, that's Michelle's version. Now, let me remix that and rewind it. It's "Have Yourself a Merry Little Benjamin." There we go. So that's what it is. No, okay. We don't have to sing it. But anyway. Okay, yeah, that's what it is.
Let's not sing it.
I challenge David to watch I challenged David to watch a show between now and Christmas. And his show to watch is Breaking Bad. And so I knew for me.
You never watched Breaking Bad?
No, we talked about this. I remember you were really upset when you found out I hadn't watched Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And so, and so I knew that for him, he would probably want me to watch The West Wing because I know how much that show means to him and how much he loves it. And it's today, as he said, is the official 20th anniversary of the show when it first premiered on this day back in September. And so I, in that time, have watched the entire first season of The West Wing.
Yes, he's knocked out the whole first season. I'm so proud of you, Bobby. Oh, I'm so proud of you. You don't have to watch the first 4, but I bet you he's gonna be so excited. He's going to jump right into 5.
But then he's gonna get to 5 though, and he's gonna go, oh, what happened?
He's gonna be in 2 or 3 episodes into 5. He's gonna be like,
what happened to our show?
Not the same.
But anyway.
Sad.
Yeah, well, okay. So, I mean, we'll get to that bridge when it comes up. But in the meanwhile, the show itself it's crazy because it's kind of like if you were to take high school or junior high school civics and government and social studies class, but make it entertaining and more palatable. I think that's what this show is in a way. It's like it presents the ideas of government in a way that's maybe sometimes more idealistic than what the reality of it is, but it kind of makes you want to have this version of the way the world is, or at least the United States is, the way it's portrayed in the series, and have the type of people that are on this show that are in the government, running our government. You kind of wish that these were the type of people, and in a true, I guess, kind of a utopian world, this would be the type of people that are running the country, the people that are looking out for everyone's best interests and not just their own. And it's full of really great characters. Everybody has their own individual ideas and the way they work. And of course, everything that brings it together is Aaron Sorkin's writing. I mean, he just writes these characters so well and so defined, and they all have their own unique personalities to when they're together. And you love seeing like certain combinations of people when they're talking. Right now, my favorite dynamic is Josh and Donna, and the way they like go off of each other and bounce back and forth is a lot of fun. And on top of watching the show, I listened to the first maybe 6 or 7 episodes of the podcast that goes along with it. So I'm kind of getting into that a little bit as well. I probably won't be able to keep up as much, but just so I can make sure I'm watching the show. But yeah, it is nice being able to have that as a companion piece to watching the show as well.
Nice.
Oh, David and I are so excited for you, Bobby, to go on this wonderful journey. Oh, yeah, it warms our hearts.
Yeah, my problem right now is, we talked last week about going to that final episode of West Wing Weekly in January. But right now I'm in season 5. So I'm like, I definitely took a break from it leading up to Dragon Con, kind of getting ready for Dragon Con. But now I've been kind of trying to get back in it. All right, I got to get back in the swing of finishing the show out, rewatching it up till that last episode that we're going to the recording for. But anyway, yeah, man, it's good to hear you liking the show.
Yeah,
I've never
really
watched
good.
an episode of West Wing at all.
Oh,
Ever.
man.
Oh, it's so good, Yasha.
It's interesting to me about the show too, because I feel like I'm not surprised, but I guess I find it intriguing that, David, you watched it so early on and was into it as much as you were, because I feel like if I watched this show 20 years ago when it was on, it probably wouldn't have affected me in the same way that I think it does now watching it. And a lot of the things that they talk about are still relevant today, but it's just, I think I would have been more into, I guess, the personal aspects of the show more so than the politics of the show back then. But now I feel like I'm fully enveloped in all of it, the personalities and the the issues that are at hand.
Yeah, I mean, I'll fully admit it, though I did watch, I think, episodes here and there when it was airing. I actually really got into the show when it was doing its Bravo in syndication.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, when it was on Bravo, I remember they probably did, I think they did some like West Wing marathons where that's all they were showing over the weekend. And I started watching it like hardcore when they were doing that. And then I got sucked into it and I mean, we didn't have Netflix streaming at the time, but I think I started getting the DVDs from Netflix and binging the entire show that way.
DVDs from Netflix.
I know, it's so weird. Mail. It's crazy. But, that's when I really, really watched the show. I actually didn't really watch it when it was, at least those early seasons. The later seasons I did. I did start watching that because I kind of caught up to the show, and I saw I think seasons 6 and 7. So,
okay.
I'll do you one better. So when the show came out, I was just starting my freshman year of college. So yeah, I didn't watch the show. I knew of the show because every time I'd go home and be with my parents, my mom and dad were watching the show. So I caught random episodes here and there, but I really couldn't have given two craps. I was in college years, in college mode, whatever. But then after the college years, I don't remember what I was watching. Maybe it was Bravo. I don't even know. But, this is the mid 2000s. And I started watching a few of the episodes and really started enjoying them. And then this is where I'm going to do you one better. I started watching them on the DVDs from the library.
Wow.
Wow. Look at you.
Impressive.
I know. So that's how I watched the first 4 seasons. And then it was upon later years, I think it was around the same time you and I started talking we like the West Wing. We watched the West Wing. I started watching the fifth. I started rewatching it and went into the 5th and 6th seasons. And I was just like, whoa, this really is so different.
And to be clear too, I don't think those last seasons are bad. It's still a good show. It just
feels a little different.
The Sorkin writing takes it to a certain level, and the characters are just, I will say they're more enjoyable to watch. I feel like when you get into season 5, you just find that one of the things I think that makes the show great is that you like being with these characters. You like hanging out with them.
Yeah, you do.
And I've found now that I'm rewatching season 5 and I'm about halfway through season 5 right now, it's like I don't enjoy hanging out with them as much. They're just
they're kind of surfacey. They're not as deep as I think they are with the Sorkin writing. But anyways.
So happy West Wing Day, everybody.
Yeah, happy West Wing Day.
20 years.
And Bobby, on June 12th, you get your Superman Day.
Oh,
Superman
it's June
Day.
12th.
June 12th. So it's coming on this
okay.
year.
Superman Day.
June 12th, mark your calendars, kids. Superman Day.
So if we haven't mentioned, by the way,
Nice.
to anyone watching on YouTube, we do have the Emmys on here in the background. So if you're wondering why Michelle and I are constantly looking in that direction.
Every now and then my head will turn and he'll zone into that direction. Because we're kind of catching the Emmys.
We're watching the Emmys on mute while we record a podcast.
And side note, did you notice what shows are sweeping up some Emmys?
Yeah.
Marvelous Maisel.
Oh, I have no problem with that show. I just haven't watched it.
Marvelous Miss Maisel. And then Phoebe Waller-Bridge just got for Fleabag.
Wow.
Right.
What do you mean? She got it for the show itself, or she won for her best actress?
It was for the actress. I didn't.
Oh,
catch
nice.
That I think it was for actress.
Because she was nominated against Julia Louis-Dreyfus for final season of V. So I would think that would be an upset.
It's basically an upset. It's pretty awesome. You should have seen her. She's real excited. Anyways,
so last week we ended the episode with our new weekly bet that we are adding up till the end of the year, our box office battle, as we're calling it. Mm-hmm. We're all predicting the top 5 box office movies of the weekend, and we get a bonus if we get close to the amount for the number 1 within 2 million. Bobby, how did everybody do this week?
Oh, man. I think, I think everybody underestimated, Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
Even the resident fan of the show actually underestimated it.
I mean... I mean, I was positive, but man,
Yeah, so the way it all shook out was in the number 5 spot, we had Hustlers with 17 million. And in the number 4 was It Chapter 2 with 17.2. Rambo Last Blood was number 3 with 19 million. And Ad Astra, number 2 at 19.2 million. So these are Sunday estimates. There's a possibility those two could change because of how close they are, only separated by like basically $200,000.
Yeah.
And then the number 1 spot was Downton Abbey with $31 million.
Man,
My goodness.
that
I
blows
just
my
would have never.
mind.
I never would have guessed. So
The producers really knew that they were like going to have a hit. Apparently, like that's kind of surreal.
yeah, so I'll be curious once we get to that in the reviews and Michelle talks about it, how they leave it off as if there is room for another one or not. But as far as who actually won this week, that would be Mr. David Lott.
That's right.
He got 4 points this week, or 3 points.
Oh yeah, I got 3 points.
Yeah, 3 points. And then coming in after that, though, was Yasha. He got 2 points.
Nice.
Did I
Let's
really?
see. Yeah, you did. So David got
cool.
Rambo, It, and Hustlers right. And Yasha, you got It and Hustlers right. And me and Michelle are bringing up the rear with big fat goose eggs with
Nothing.
0 this
Nothing.
week. Nothing this week. So the way it all looks after 2 weeks, the totals are, let me see if I find it. David, do you see it on yours? I can't find it.
I have 6 points total now. Bobby and Yasha, you guys both have 4 points, and Michelle, you have 1 point.
Yay.
2 weeks in, that's where we stand.
I mean, I'll be
Yeah.
honest though, I've never said I was very good at predicting box office numbers.
You did say that in the beginning.
I mean, I've said that years ago. Like, I'm never really good at predicting box office
Right.
stuff. I think mostly because some of it's such a crapshoot. But I will say, like, I'm surprised by Downton Abbey, but at the same time, like, my viewing of Downton Abbey, that room was basically sold out, and that was on Thursday night. It's 7:00. So
Well,
yeah.
with that, why don't we go down the box office numbers here. At number 1 was Downton Abbey, and you saw it. And
I did.
You're a Downton Abbey fan. You've watched all the seasons.
I'm a Downton fan.
How was the movie?
I loved it. It was super enjoyable. It was basically like being enveloped in your favorite, best, big, cozy blanket that's just like your thing. Like, it was lovely. It's just nice to kind of like be revisiting something that you know so well visually, and just the characters that you've come to love and appreciate or be annoyed by. And I don't know, it was almost like coming to a second home. It was really awesome. And I have to say, visually, seeing it on a big screen like that, so awesome. Like, if they ever were like, oh, we want to play the Christmas specials, because it's made in the UK, they specifically have Christmas specials too. If there was ever like a time when they decided to run some episodes specifically in theaters, I would totally go see it in the theater. Seeing it on that big screen, and I wound up in a Dolby screen, Dolby Cinema. Seeing it that way, yeah, I was excited. I think they literally were doing it just for that night too, because I think they bumped Ad Astra into it for the weekend. Or they had Ad Astra in the IMAX. That's right. They had Ad Astra in the IMAX, and they put Downton in the Dolby. And man, it was awesome. Like, similar to the opening sequence of the show, you know, one of the very first shots is of what they call Downton Abbey, which is actually, now my mind just blanked. I've been thinking about it all day. Anyways, it's this beautiful castle, and so as it's coming up the drive and the castle comes into view and it opens up, it is just gorgeous, and it's so rich, and I just it was just my little heart swelled. I was like, it's starting. It was really awesome. And like, I'll say, you know, they got everybody. The only like characters they didn't have kind of come back into the movie, now I can't think of her name. Lily James's character, and then the person that she married in the show, their characters were not in the movie. Otherwise, they literally had everybody in it. Mm-hmm. It was pretty sweet. And so it just, I don't know, it was like coming back like to old friends to hang out kind of. And the storyline they chose was done really well. I think it played out really well. And there's basically the main story of the events that are happening. But then just like the show, there's all these little side things that are happening that coincide with the events, but it's a lot that goes on. And it was good. Everybody was written well with their little mini dramas kind of that was happening or whatever was going on in their lives. And I say drama, not all of it was really drama. It was, just kind of like, man, like, it's just kind of like life. Like, you'll be going down your day and this little thing kind of gets you sidetracked. And then 3 days later, it kind of kicks back up in your face. And you're like, what's this again? What's happening? I don't even know. And it could be funny or it could be good or it could be bad. You never know. But it was just really nice to watch. It was done super, super well. And I almost kind of want to go back and watch it again. I'll be honest.
Wow.
I was very pleased with the way they did this. It picks up just a few years from where the show ended too. So it wasn't like it was a huge time jump. It was really just 2, maybe 3 years from where it ended. I won't say it was just right after, but there's a little bit of time that's gone by.
Right.
I don't know. It was pretty sweet. It was pretty nice.
I'm happy for you, Michelle. And I think I'm happy for this movie, even though it's not something that's geared towards me. It's just the idea that a show can do well while it's on and then jump to a movie format and still bring in this type of money is something that I think will probably be looked at by studios and maybe they will sort of pluck out other things to be able to do this, having Downton Abbey as the model. Because I gotta say, if they told me that, at my local AMC theater, every let's say Thursday, Friday night, I could go and watch Mandalorian on the big screen, I'd be there. Even though I know I could watch it on Disney Plus,
Yeah.
I'd probably still show up for it in the theater. So for you to have something like this, and like you said, if they were to show those Christmas specials or whatever in the theater, and you'd be perfectly happy to do that. So I don't know, maybe this will spark something.
I think you're right, Bobby. Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
No, you go ahead, Yasha. Please go ahead.
No, I just think it's, you're right to just echo that. It's like, how seamlessly they seem to make one of a very avid fan and then transition from, small screen to large screen and do it well. I think a lot of people are going to take notice of that and be like, okay, what else can we do this for that would actually make it work? And then make it as much fun as you are proclaiming it was. So I think that's really cool that you were so satisfied with the film.
Yeah, I'm super happy. The story was really well. But the story that they focused in on, as far as basically the catalyst to what was happening, it was done really well. It was written really well, and it moved really well. It was a lovely 2 hours. At one point, I was kind of like, I'm kind of bummed this is going to come to an end. Like, it was really quick, and I could take more. I was totally cool with it. And I will say, like, no spoilers here, but they left it. I mean, it's not like they basically closed the stories that they were doing, but they left it like they could do another movie. Like, and if they wanted to make this to do like 1 or 2 more films, like do another one in like 3 or 4 years, they totally could. Like, as long as I think the actors are willing to do things, they can just kind of make like one, main story and do what they did again. I totally go see this more. Like, yeah, it was really good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I will say, like, no spoilers, but there's so the oldest cast member is Dame Maggie Smith, and there is kind of like a farewell conversation she has with another character towards the end of the film, and so I think they kind of did that in a way so that if they did decide to make more Downton films, and because realistically she's up there.
Don't say it. Hush your mouth, Michelle.
I know. I love her.
Even though I don't watch Downton Abbey, I love Maggie Smith.
I love me some Maggie Smith.
Yeah, Maggie Smith is the shit.
Oh man, I'm telling you, trust me. I was tearing up hard. I did wind up having a tear go down my cheek. I was like, dang it, I made it so far in this movie, and now I'm crying. I was like, but I have to say, if I'm gonna cry, at least I'm crying over Maggie Smith. That's fine. But yeah, so she kind of like, she kind of has like a conversation, and it basically is, you know, she could be going. So it's one of those things that if they did choose to make a movie, and I hate saying it, but if something were to happen and they did make another film and it picked up after her real life passing, the story would be okay. We'd go, oh yeah, she did say that was going on. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't feel weird. Like, well, where'd Maggie go? You know, like, they'd be like, oh yeah, you know, great grandmama passed away last year in spring, and I don't know. It was just one of those things. Like, it was like, it could easily be done, which is nice. So in a way, they did really leave it open to do more if they wanted to, which is super awesome. I got really high pitch there.
So Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey. 2 thumbs up.
Did well in theaters at number 1. At number 2 is Ad Astra, which actually you wanted to see it, right? But you didn't get a chance.
I did want to see it very, very much so. I just did not have enough time throughout the weekend to go ahead and get out and actually go and sit in the theater for it. I just didn't. Time, energy, whatever you want to call it, chalk it up to, I just didn't have it in me to go and do it.
Right. But Bobby, Michelle, and myself, we saw the film. I'm going to go to you, Bobby. What did you think of Ad Astra?
I guess with Ad Astra, my expectations of going into it were that it was going to be a slower film, and that you're not getting an action sci-fi movie in this. And one of the central ideas within the movie, well, I wouldn't say central idea, but something that is sort of a tangent to one of the ideas of the movie is the alien life aspect. And I didn't honestly think much about that really going into it. I really thought this would be more of a think piece in a way on space travel and the relationship of the father and sons. And so I felt like that's what the movie actually excelled at. It did really well in presenting space, and it also did really well to me in giving a glimpse into what Brad Pitt's character had been going through. And honestly, one of the things that this movie did for me, and by the way, I will say, I really, really like the movie a lot. And it's just a matter of thinking on it and chewing on it a little bit to see if I like loved it, you know, kind of thing. But I know I definitely really, really liked it because honestly, without necessarily specifically comparing the two, I think that everything that I got in this movie is what I was looking for in First Man. And while there's absolutely great performances in First Man, I think what I wanted in that movie more so than anything else was the time that you see in that movie when they're spending at NASA and training, or the time when they're on the moon, like the space stuff, the shots of it, what it takes to be in that world. And even in seeing Brad Pitt's performance, it gives me even more respect to what Ryan Gosling was doing with his character, because it takes a certain type of person to be able to essentially go through all the things you have to go through when dealing with space travel, the vacuum of it, the loneliness of it, the head games of it all in a way. And I think that was portrayed really well by Brad Pitt, because the movie has his inner monologue, so you know what he's thinking. And getting to see that portrayed along with the nice, like, beautiful vistas of the moon and different things that they would show in the movie. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is the part where that they show in the trailer that they just sort of glimpse at, is when they're in the space buggies on the moon. And it's so well done from a visual standpoint, but also this underlining story of what you see in the trailers is that Brad Pitt's character is trying to find his father, who's in deep space near Saturn, I think it is. And so he's trying to reach him and figure out essentially what happened without getting into any specific details. And I just thought that a lot of the the concepts and ideas that came up within his character of how it has affected his life since he was a kid was done really well and told really well, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know if the runtime was long, but it didn't feel long. It moved pretty quickly, even though honestly there is mostly a lot of just talking as opposed to specific action that's going on. But I really did enjoy it a lot.
I'll go ahead and say that I basically agree with you. I also enjoyed it. I feel like I've seen kind of two extremes with the reaction of the movie. I mean, it was either Venice or TIFF that it was at that, I don't know about you guys, but I was seeing a lot of, oh, this is a masterpiece, and it made me really curious to see it. And then as it got closer and was released, and I had friends on social media and some other stuff, other bloggers I followed that were like, it was boring. One friend of mine walked out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I was like, well, now I'm really curious to see what this movie's going to be like. But I will say, like you said, it delivered the kind of film I was expecting. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if some people were expecting a lot more action, and I will say, I'm not going to, say any names, but one person talked about how boring they made, like, even the scene you talked about, Bobby, the scene on the moon. And I'm just like,
oh no, it was riveting.
I thought it was so great. Good. I don't know what was boring about that. I'm sorry. I just don't understand some of the, but I mean, I do get some of the reaction. If you did go into this and you were like really expecting something a little more action, and you were expecting to see certain things that you don't get to see in this movie, is all I'll say. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I don't know. Like, it's the movie I expected, and I enjoyed the message, and it asked a lot of deep questions, and overall I liked the film. And I started thinking about it in context of other like space films, and I will say a lot of those films I still think are better movies, like 2001, Interstellar. I will say I think First Man's a better film, but I know in general I enjoyed that movie more than you did when it came out. Mm-hmm. Sunshine comes to mind, especially because there's a lot of aspects about this film that are very similar to Sunshine.
Yeah.
And I think I've always said Sunshine is an underrated film in that genre, and I think Sunshine is a better movie than this. But with that said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Do I think it'll be in my top 10? Yeah, I kind of doubt it. But maybe if I actually got the chance to see it again, this seems like the kind of movie I would have to see a second time to really like, plant my foot on where I really stand with it. But I enjoyed it. I will say, if I have a negative, I feel like in this genre of movies, we've gotten to a point, and Interstellar is a perfect example of, I think the audience has started to expect now a certain level of accuracy with this. And I think in general, audiences kind of know a lot more about, what is accurate and what isn't. And there were things about this movie that I'm just like, no, like that wouldn't work that way. And that took me out of it, and that bugged me. And, again, no spoilers, but there, you mentioned there's stuff on the moon, and there's a scene when they're walking around on a base in the moon. And I mean, the movie is just kind of placed in the quote unquote near future. I don't know if a year is ever given. And maybe you could argue that, there's some type of technology that's making gravity just like Earth in this base. But I'm like, no, I don't buy it. I'm like, I buy it when I'm watching a certain level of sci-fi show, like a Star Trek or a Star Wars. Like that, I just can let it go. That, hey,
Well, and those even explain it to a certain extent. They've actually even said, like, we're turning on the gravity, like,
right.
or they've said, this is really, I think, we catch on to things in like Star Wars, Star Trek, and some other shows, is like they're fighting a bad guy, and they're like, okay, we're going to turn off the gravity field so we could fight them and give them a disadvantage, and they would turn off the anti-gravity or something like that, and like that's how we know that it worked. That's how we understand that. But like in the film, it doesn't explain that. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in.
No, you're fine. I mean, that just, it kind of, it bugged me. And there's other stuff, like when there's people in anti-gravity and they have longer hair and their hair's not moving around. I'm like, no, their hair would move around. It wouldn't look like that. And that sounds even underwater. That sounds even more nitpicky. And yeah, it is. But I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that, in one respect, this movie felt really accurate, and it felt like it was going for a look that was a lot like what it would be like in space. And, when you're seeing these shots outside of a ship or something, there's no sound. But then in other respects, it didn't go far enough, I feel like, with accuracy, and it kind of bugged me. So that kind of annoyed me. But other than that, I enjoyed the film. What do you think of Michelle?
I'm right there with you guys. Like, I was excited to hear kind of what your thoughts were. And yeah, I went into this movie knowing that, like, not the pacing of the film was going to be slow, but more just that, like, the story was going to take its time to kind of unfold, and that there was going to be kind of a way that it was done that it's mostly in space. Like, there's no sound in space, guys. So, like, there's definitely sequences that are quiet. And I went into the film, I think, expecting this to kind of happen. And I don't know if that's what's being perceived as boring to other people that are audience members for it, maybe. I don't know. I've been trying to kind of understand it, but I don't think the film is boring. I think it's very interesting. I think it asks a lot of really interesting questions. And yeah, I don't think that Brad Pitt gave, like, the performance of his lifetime or anything, but I thought it was really well done. Yeah. And I think the storyline is really, really interesting, and I think it plays out really well. And yeah, I think the effects are good. I also agree, like, no, there's not a lot of action, but I will say the moments that are action worthy and or scenes that would make you go, ooh, this is getting tense, were kind of tense. Like, I was like, even though it was kind of quieter, right, you're watching things play out really without a lot of sound happening. And it kind of, for me, that kind of builds the tension in what's happening. And so I really liked it a lot. And I will say it's one of those films that you watch it and you need time to kind of digest it and kind of let it sit with you and think about it. And while I enjoyed this film a lot, no, it's definitely not one of my favorite space films. And I don't think it's going to be on my top 10 list either. But that's not saying it's a bad film. I think it's worthy of people seeing for sure. I don't quite understand some people saying that it's really bad. I'm like, I don't know if it's bad, but I don't know. Maybe my expectations were just different when I saw this, I guess. But yeah. I mean, I have the issues I have are same as yours on it, because we can kind of compare notes on this too. But yeah, it's the whole, like, little nitpicky things. Like, there's times it's really, I think, accurate as to what things in space would be like you were saying, like, your mental faculties, how they would hold up at that point, obviously how your physicality would hold up for that long. Mm-hmm. And I think they really do a great job of showing, like, what happens to you when you're in this kind of a vacuum for that long. But then, yeah, it's like little things like your hair's not moving. Like, I guess that's why they even cut Brad Pitt's hair as short as they did for this film, so they didn't have to worry about that so much. Yeah, it was like, it wasn't his hair, but there was other actors. Right, but there's other people that you could have seen things. And I was having issues with the whole gravity situation on the moon. I'm like, I mean, there is gravity, but it's not like Earth gravity. I was like, I don't know about that, but yeah. So I mean, there's like weird things like that kind of are like, okay, I'm gonna let it slide because we'll see how the movie goes. But no, I enjoyed it, and I really hope that more people would give it a chance. If anything, just kind of for some of the questions that's asking. I mean, not even so much like, do extraterrestrials exist, but just questions on, your relationship with maybe people in your family, or your relationship to other people even on this planet. Like, what are your thoughts on basically civilization? And what are your thoughts on Earth? Like, what are your thoughts about Earth, like, existing or not existing in the future? Like, things like that. And I don't know, it just kind of raises kind of interesting questions about technology, and it raises questions about our future and our existence. And I don't know, I think these are questions that you don't get to hear a lot of times, and I think it's something that people could think about. Yep. So
and I think the job of the movie is trying to, and at least in my opinion, trying to raise the questions, but not necessarily answer the questions for it. It's just trying to present the conversation. Exactly. It's trying to give you something for the conversation of, like, with our technology, how far should we go? Should we go this far? Should we not go this far?
Would this be what kind of the outcome is if we did decide to go this far? Like, what would we do? How would we set things up? How would things go down a path? Like, it lets you like think about these things.
And I'm curious, after us all talking about it, Yasha, does it make you more or less now want to go see the movie?
Maybe just a little bit rushing out to the theater. I can pace myself. Usually I like to see things in the theater when it comes to this, and I like to support Brad Pitt and whatnot because I'm a fan. I do enjoy his work. But hearing these reviews, it's just kind of like a little bit indifferent across the whole board. I don't know what I expected with the film or what I expect with the film. Maybe just what I really am looking forward towards is just kind of like a drama type of thing. I wasn't necessarily in it for like this, action-packed film. I didn't expect that when I saw the trailer, but I'm interested still. But I'm also typically the type of person like I don't know how you guys are with this, but it's like if I don't see the movie the opening weekend, I've already just succumbed to seeing it when it comes out on video or Amazon, and I can rent it there. Just because there's stuff that constantly comes out and other things that constantly come out that I'll just use my time for that. And unless it's something that I'm really passionate about going to go see, I won't see it in the theater after its opening weekend. This one, I'm just kind of like indifferent. I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'll wait. I can wait. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not in any huge rush.
Got it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that.
What?
Because a movie that you and I
about
saw
seeing
actually
something the second week.
saw something in the second week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can jump to that now if you want. But, yeah, we saw Hustlers in its second week,
Yeah.
which was at number 5 this
Oh,
week.
wow.
Bobby, you talked about it last week. And, I mean,
did.
correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you mostly enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah, we both saw it this week. Michelle, you can jump in first. What did you think of Hustlers?
Yasha, did you see Hustlers?
No, he did not want to see that movie.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That is
That's right.
a hard pass. Like, that is a hard pass. Like, I may see it for the review sooner or later, but there is no sense of urgency whatsoever to go see that film for me. It looks dumb as shit. I'm sorry. It just does. It looks dumb as hell. But that was standing, like, just, to answer the question, like you guys just asked me about Ad Astra, does it make me want to go see it? Hearing that Bobby enjoyed it, our tastes are very much aligned and very similar in almost every aspect when it comes to film. I want to see it now. Like, I'm interested. Like, I'm just like, okay. Like, if Bobby enjoyed it, then more than likely I probably will enjoy it. It just looks mind-blowingly dumb to me.
Well, maybe I might switch you back a little bit then.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so Hustlers. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. I actually did enjoy the film. Like, I thought it was an enjoyable film. I don't think it's really that spectacular. And I think that's my issue with it, is I feel like it's had a lot of buzz about being really good and really riveting and really, great performances and the writing and and I'm like, okay, then man, yeah, I guess I'll check this bad boy out. Like, whew, it's getting some good reviews. So I mean, like, I ain't going with high expectations, but I definitely went in with this has got to be fairly decent if it's getting these great reviews. I don't think they're really warranted. I enjoyed what I saw. I think the story is an interesting story. It is something that I don't think we see very much up on the silver screen. I think it's an interesting representation of women and power. I think it's a very interesting representation of men in power. And I thought it was enjoyable for what it was, but I probably could have waited for this to come out on HBO.
All right.
That's about where I'm at with it. Like, I don't hate it or anything. I just kind of was like, I don't think all the praise is quite as warranted as necessary. I will admit that I think that this is one of the best performances of J-Lo's career.
Really?
I don't think that it is even close to warranting any kind of award buzz.
No.
Like, that's kind of gotten thrown around a few times, and I think people need to quelch that pretty fast, or she's gonna have a really depressing awards season. No, she's not warranted of any kind of nominations for any kind of awards. But I will say it's definitely like it's probably her best performance, if not one of the absolute best performances I think she's ever given. So I will fully admit that. And I think Constance Wu did a really great job. I like them and I like the performances, but honestly, like, I didn't think the movie was a lot to write home about. Like, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this changes my opinion on this. And I feel like I was kind of like, it was an enjoyable 2 hours.
Cool. Yeah, as for me, I mean, I won't dwell on it too long, but I guess kind of similar. I enjoyed the movie, but same. I thought it was. I don't know. My guess just go as far as to say it was fine. Like,
that's probably better.
As far as the
fine.
story, yes, this is based on a real story, though I didn't know anything about it, so it's not like I had any knowledge of the story going into it. But as the story played out, I was like, it's extremely predictable how this is playing out. And and again, not going to spoil anything, but there's kind of something that's kind of brought up as a major point in the end about kind of a relationship in this movie, and it didn't quite work for me. It didn't pay off like I think they were hoping for that moment to pay off. Mm-hmm. They didn't do enough throughout the film to really give me the feels they were looking for.
Right.
Is all I'll say. And then, I also kind of felt like the movie was actually trying a little too hard to be this kind of indie, more artsy film.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel like a natural fit for the movie. It felt like it was trying too hard to do that.
Kind of felt like it was missing the mark.
Like there were certain aspects, and I know that's something you brought up, Bobby, but like there was a couple moments in this movie where sound is kind of used in a way. And one of them actually kind of worked for me. But the other one, and again, I don't think there's any spoilers here, but there's somebody who's interviewing somebody and using a tape recorder, and then when the tape recorder is turned off, the sound just kind of gets cut off. And that I found really weird and completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing about it that made any sense. It's not like you're listening to that interview via the sound of that tape recorder.
Right.
So why suddenly when she cuts it off,
that make a difference?
That felt like a good example of things this movie was trying to do that just felt like you're trying too hard.
I agree.
And that's something about the movie I didn't like. So even though, if kind of what you said, I guess, if you came across this movie on a Netflix or an HBO or something, it'd probably be like, that was an entertaining watch. But I don't know. Some of the reaction out of the film festival circuit, it's like, I also get the impression sometimes when movies are being watched at these festivals with a certain audience that is all like enjoying it at a certain way, I think it heightens everyone's enjoyment of a movie. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's kind of what happened here.
And if they're weighing films against each other, even if they have nothing to do with each other at the film festival, and you're weighing them, then that might have been the best one out of the whole festival. Yeah. But when you throw it out into the world of all the other films.
So not a bad movie. Like you said, it's definitely I feel like some of the stuff that's been thrown around in terms of like her Oscar performance wasn't quite so serious, but if there's anyone out there who seriously thinks she should get any type of award buzz for that performance, okay. I mean, she's good in it, but no.
Yeah. I will say though, kudos to J-Lo on her 50-year-old body, rocking it. I will always own that woman looked freaking amazing.
Right. She really does. Yeah.
There's zero question in that. Like physically, that woman was, good Lord, that was awesome. I was like, girl, I respect the hell out of that.
Yeah, she works hard for it. I mean,
she does.
I'm sure her personal trainer is a fortune as well as her chef.
Right.
So she definitely has an edge than a lot of other people don't. But she looks great. So does Jennifer Aniston. I mean, Jennifer Aniston has a rocking bod for being in her 50s as well, looking as good as she does, and she's proven that time and time again. So I mean, it is impressive.
Yeah.
You know, I just to sort of go back to what I was saying about it. And as you guys were talking about it, there's a lot that I did enjoy about it. I have to say I really enjoyed the movie was funnier than I thought it was going to be going into it. There's one particular character who seems to have a vomit reflex that just for whatever reason would make me laugh at various times, and just other aspects within the movie that I found to be funnier than I thought it would be going into it, that I think helped my enjoyment for the movie overall.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely funny moments in it for sure.
Yeah.
And I know my audience was reacting to a lot of it. So.
Yeah, mine was too.
As for box office movies, we brought up that Rambo was at 3. Rambo Last Blood. Bobby, you saw that.
Yeah, I did see Rambo. I mean, look, if there's been 4 movies since prior to this, at least all I can remember. And if anyone saw the last one, Rambo, it's easy and safe to assume that you kind of understand where Stallone is at this point with these movies. He's not the spry young chicken that can be running around doing everything that he used to be able to do, like in the first ones and first and second movies. But it's Rambo, and so there's a certain expectation you have going into a Rambo movie is that he's going to kill a lot of mofos, and that is essentially what
he's good at killing mofos. Is that what you just said?
I said he's gonna kill a lot of mofos.
Gonna kill a lot of mofos.
And that's essentially what you're getting with this movie. It's Rambo doing his Rambo thing, and I guess you could go in expecting some sort of elegant story being told and some sort of thoughtful think piece, but I think it'd be wrong of you to do that. I think you should just go in and expecting a high kill count and just enjoying some gruesome kind of. To me, the movie is brutally delicious, I guess is the best way to put it, because there's a fun in the aspect of sort of like with John Wick when he's killing people, the artistry and the way they do the kills, sort of like, to me, in a reverse way, how it used to be when I would watch scary movies with Freddy Krueger or Jason or whatever. Half the fun was in the way he would kill the victims. And sort of that's kind of how it is in this movie, is like, how is he going to dispatch these people? And that's when the fun really starts. The first part of the movie sets up all of the stuff that comes later on towards the last 30 minutes of it, which the payoff is very satisfying. And aside from that, it's just what it is. What it is. It's a Rambo movie, and I think you go into it knowing that, and you probably would have a lot of fun with it. And that's what I did. I had fun with it. It's not showing up on anybody's list. It's not as near as good and satisfying in the same way that a John Wick movie is, but I would say it's a solid action movie in the same vein as some of the other sort of action movies of the year have been. And there's really one thing I think that I would give a huge knock to that happens in the movie that I can't really divulge because it gives plot away. But aside from that one thing, everything else was pretty satisfying.
Yeah, I've never seen a Rambo movie, actually.
What?
I've never seen First Blood. I've never seen Rambo 2.
I did not know that.
No, It's funny because I grew up watching movies like that. I mean, I will say I think I'm the poster child of movies do not make you violent, because I'm about the most pacifist person I think I know, and I grew up watching all the Schwarzenegger stuff. Extremely violent 80s action films, but for whatever reason, I never had an interest in watching the Rambo stuff. I never have.
That first movie is really good because it's so different than the rest of the movies are. The first movie is more of a understated, sort of subtle man against the world kind of movie that it plays really well still to this day. But the other movies are more in it for adrenaline action junkies, and it's satisfying on that level. But the first movie is more thoughtful in a way that makes it stand out from the rest. But yeah, I would at least say if you ever wanted to, just at least try and watch that first movie. It still holds up pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah,
I can actually echo what David just said. I don't think I've ever seen one in its entirety, from start to finish.
That is surprising.
I want to say that. Yeah, I think I've seen First Blood years ago, but I barely remember it. Like, I barely remember watching it. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, same boat. Yeah.
You haven't watched any of them, or?
I remember watching the first one when I was younger, but I couldn't even tell you what the story was about. Like, I have no idea. But I remember seeing the first one, but that's it.
Gotcha. All right, moving on.
So much this week.
On Netflix, a new film dropped, Between Two Ferns, the movie.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And Yasha, you watched this one.
Ooh.
How was it? Yasha?
Wow, it's so good. He's
so
stunned
good, he's
into
speechless.
silence.
I'm sorry you cut out a little bit there. What was that?
You watched Between Two Ferns, the movie. How was it?
Oh, yes. You know what? If you've ever watched this series on YouTube and you've ever gotten a chance to check it out, it's just more of that. And I thought that was really, really funny. And the show, I think the 3-minute segments are funny. This was a lot of the same character and a lot of the same jokes, very over the top. But, you know, some of it is very, very funny. The outtakes at the end that they show when the celebrities are trying to hold a straight face when he's asking these questions, which are so mean, is hilarious. But it was a fun movie. I did laugh out loud. So if you like the YouTube series and you follow that at all, you'll probably enjoy this.
What's the general setup for anyone that hasn't actually seen the YouTube series?
Imagine somebody incredibly bad at their job when it comes to interviewing celebrities, doesn't get their spelling of their names right, and just asks offensively mean questions, but is very, very serious when he asks them like he expects an answer. That's what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's set up like a public access show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a public television show, public access, and it's just overtly mean every single time out.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's rough.
It's harsh. Like, there are some questions that are just, wow, I can't believe he really asked that, or I can't believe the celebrity was on board with that question being asked. Like, that was really, like, even though it's all pretend, like, you just kind of like, dude, like, you're really on board with that? Like, that's awesome. Like, you have that type of personality that you can just do it. And some of these celebrities play over characterization of themselves, which is fun. Like, Peter Dinklage was in the movie, and he very much probably played an over the top version of himself, and it was great. Like, it was really funny.
Nice. Have you ever seen? Did you ever see?
I think anybody did.
I was gonna say, did you ever see the episode that had Hillary Clinton on it?
I actually just recently rewatched a lot of them just because I was getting ready to watch the movie. So amazing.
Yeah.
So amazing.
It's impressive she allowed that many those questions to even be asked.
Oh yeah. Or even like the Brad Pitt one. Did you see the Brad Pitt one?
Yes.
Like, the question that he asked when he says, do you find it hard to get a suntan because you're constantly living in your wife's shadow? Like, what? Like,
So
what? And then he ends that segment with, like, he's like, you ever see the show Friends? I really like that show. And then plays the theme song. And it's just like, the very fact that Brad Pitt was on board with doing something like that just makes me like him even more, because he's just like, yeah, fuck it. Like, let's make fun of myself.
Like, let's do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's do this. The same thing with Hillary. You know, she made it very funny. Or when he interviewed Barack Obama, when he asked him, just like, he flat out asked him, he's like, do you think it's remarkable? What's it like being the last black president? Like, you're just like, what?
Wow.
So,
it's,
I mean,
oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, cringy.
It's really uncomfortable, dry humor, like, but it's so funny, and it's so good.
Have they ever said that the people that he's interviewing know what he's going to ask before he asks it, or is it all sort of impromptu and they don't know what he's going to ask?
No, I think they know what he's gonna ask.
Okay.
Yeah, like because their reactions, because sometimes they're more genuine, and other times they're playing kind of a farce of themselves in a way. They're playing an extreme, so their reactions are planned out. It is a scripted show, but I mean, it's still like I'm sure that for the people that are going on it. They're like, yeah, this will be funny. Ask that question. And, that'll be my reaction. Okay, great. I'm sure that even when filming it, it's like, wow, it sounds a lot different when we're actually shooting this. And then there's probably reactions that they think it's hilarious and they probably just lose it. And they have to go, okay, let's try that again. Let's do it again. I need to pull myself together. So I'm sure that does happen.
You need to watch it because Benedict Cumberbatch is in it. And he was hilarious. Even like the outtakes with him. Like he was just like it's so mean. Like he couldn't stop laughing because it's so mean, and it's just like this is great. Like their reaction is just it's a scripted show, and it's very much in line of it. Like and anybody that has laughed at any of what I've just said and stuff like that, you definitely want to check out his YouTube series, at least a couple of episodes, and then definitely watch the movie because the movie is legitimately just more of that. And it's laugh out loud funny. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a good chuckle. It was really definitely a good chuckle.
Well, Bobby, you watched a couple more things on TV real quick. How were those? What did you watch?
Yeah, so one of the things I got a chance to watch was Working Moms on Netflix, and it's written or created and stars Catherine Reitman, who is of that Reitman family, Ivan Reitman, and I forget her brother's name all of a sudden. Jason Reitman, I want to say.
Yeah.
So very affluent movie family. So the pedigree is there, and the show's funny. It's about, the title kind of says it all. It's about these working moms that are trying to juggle their job, their life as mothers in their 30s, and just trying to still have their own level of femininity and say and voice within the things that they do in their personal lives and at work. And it's pretty funny. I mean, it's the type of show that I like to see because it gives you a little bit of insight into a world that you're not normally privy to. And so it kind of shows, in some ways, a heightened aspect of some of the things that they're going through, but it does it in a way that's satirical, and it's still like making a commentary about the aspect of whatever it is that's going on. And it's tough. You really see that. I mean, trying to balance this is no joke, but the way they do it and handle it within the show is funny. And a lot of times there's laugh out loud moments, but then there's sometimes where you maybe don't necessarily laugh out loud, but you get the cleverness of the joke and that it's still well constructed and a lot of the stuff that goes on in it. So Catherine Reitman, I can't remember everything that I've seen her do, but I definitely am liking this. And I'm only actually 4 episodes into the first season, and I know there's I think 4 seasons. So I'm sure I've got a lot more good stuff to come.
So I'm actually getting ready to start season 3 that just dropped.
Oh.
I've been watching this on and off for the last year. It is a really good show. It is written so well. It's a group of women that have recently had a child, and it might be their first child, it might be their 5th child, but they've all recently had a child, and they're all basically together. They all know each other either from the past or they know each other because of this mommy and me group that they're doing, right? And I will say for the most part, I feel like it focuses in on 3 women, kind of a 4th one, and that's kind of a back and forth thing. But yeah, it's so good. The situations are crazy relatable, crazy, super relatable. And I think a lot of it would be because I'm kind of in that target age group. I'm literally exactly in that target age group, mid-30s. And so it's just really, as far as their relationships with their own family members, their spouses, their children, their parents, and then their friends, and then even co-workers, relationships with people that are in the workspace that aren't really friends, and like it's just so good. And it's yeah, it's laugh out loud, and if it's not laugh out loud jokes, they're jokes that you chuckle at because you're like, oh, that's really smart.
Exactly.
It's just super, super good. You guys really, I recommend people checking it out. It's a really great show.
Now, Michelle, you've also been watching Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I cranked that out this week. It's just a short series that Netflix did, but I'm finding out that I guess it's done well enough that they are interested in doing more with it. But basically, seeing how, well, I guess they're going to kind of see what they're going to do. But basically, this short series, it focuses around a serial rapist is the main story. And it's about these two cops that work to catch the serial rapist. And it's really, I'm not a big like, oh, I need to find out who the killer is or the rapist or the, like, I've never really been into those kind of like TV shows or anything. So for me to say that I really enjoyed this, to me says something because I'm not really into those kind of things.
Right.
But no, the storytelling here is really, really, really well done. Like it's captivating and it makes you go, oh, and it's based off of real events that happened in the somewhere around basically 2008 to 2011 is when the focus of these events happen. And yeah, you're watching everything kind of slowly unfold, and there's actually a time jump that's going on at the same time. And it's it makes you go, what like, how is this happening in this day and age? Like, wait a second. And just the reality of the situation that's happening, how it unfolds. And it's really, it is unbelievable. It's got a great title because you're watching things happen. You're like, man, but the acting is really great. The storytelling is really good. The storyline, all of it, it just all works really, really well. And it wraps up really well at the end. So it's one of those things where if they were to continue the short series, they'd basically have to pick a completely new story, and I'm sure it'll have completely different actors, and it'll be interesting to see. But no, it was really good.
And Bobby, you started it, didn't you? Bobby, anyone? No, Bobby.
Yeah, sorry. I had it on mute. I had a dog barking in the background, so I just wanted to mute it.
No worries.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I have started it. I've watched the first episode so far, and it's really good. It's like Michelle said. Sometimes this type of material is hard to watch, but I think it's necessary to watch a lot of times because it shows you a point of view that you don't necessarily see all the time. And takes it from a way that it doesn't always explore in a lot of different shows. So in this first episode, for one, Caitlin Dever, who plays the main girl, is so good, and you can just see the emotion just dripping off of her in waves. It's so powerful in that way, and Toni Collette is in it as well, and she's solid in the first episode. But what really grabbed me about the first episode is just that when someone who has been raped and goes to the police to tell their story, just how many times that they will question that story, and not necessarily that they don't believe you, but they really are trying to heavily err on the side of caution to make sure that how credible your story is. And I think I'm only in the first episode, so maybe certain things can change. But what I found troublesome, at least within this first episode, is that every person that questioned the girl was like this guy. And the guy who was questioning her, different guys, but they all seemed sort of, I don't know, kind of detached in a way. And it's like there couldn't have been a female officer that could help question her, or a counselor on hand to help, guide her through these questions in a way that could kind of come into play. It just felt so like matter of fact that these guys are just questioning this young girl in terms of her story. and the credibility of it. And so it's just sort of interesting, and it makes you kind of see why maybe some women don't come forward, is because of it almost looks like they're already being judged before they can even start telling their truth or their story. And so it'll be interesting to see where it goes, because the first episode, it finds the girl in such a distraught place. You could just see where she's at and understand, some of the decisions that she makes within the episode, because of everything that's coming at her and all the things that she's already still just going through and trying to process on her own. And she is kind of on her own. And so it's rough, but yeah, I'm sticking with it. I want to see how it all unfolds.
Well, I mean, and you've hit the nail on the head here, Bobby. And it's funny to hear you talk about this. Like, you're really surprised, and you're kind of like, man. And while, yeah, I said, like, some of the things that happen are unbelievable. For me, like, the way a lot of the stuff plays out, it's not that shocking to me. Like, as a woman, knowing that if something horrific like this would ever happen to me, that's the reality of it. I'll be in a room talking to men, telling them this horror story, and them questioning me about the situation, but also questioning me. They're not believing what you're saying immediately. And that happens every day, all day long, to numbers of women all over the United States. And this is the reality that we face. And it's something that when something horrific like this happens, what you're seeing on the show, they're not stretching it. Like, that's how it would play out. Like, unfortunately, that's the reality in which we live in. And this is, again, it's starting in about 2008. It's changed a little bit since then, but not a lot. Like, in 10 years, So yeah, and it kind of it asks this question, like, why is our system set up against the person who's going through the situation? Like, why is it defaulted to this way of being, and then also just not even taking into fact that people process trauma so differently than other people. One person might be one way, one person's a completely different way.
Exactly.
Like, every person goes through things, and they can go through something almost the exact same way, and they all will process it completely different from the last person. That's just how it is. And it's like, the way our system is set up is that it just doesn't believe the person who's going through it, just default belief. It's a question the whole time. I don't know. It's a great show for that reason, because it does raise a lot of questions and a lot of thought processes, for sure.
Well, we have covered a lot of stuff.
So many things.
Is there anything I'm forgetting?
Nah, I don't think so.
As for next week, I was looking at the releases, and it's funny.
Two movies I can think of.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize Judy's already coming out, which gives me the impression I've heard nothing about that film.
It's funny you say that.
Why is that funny to say that?
It's hilarious you say that. This morning, the CBS Sunday Morning Show had an article with Michelle doing the whole thing.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Michelle,
I know of the film, and I've seen the trailer, but it's like I haven't heard any kind of like buzz or reaction at all. But Bobby, you said you've heard something?
Yeah, on one of the YouTube shows, the Collider Live, a couple of the people have seen the movie and are pretty much raving about the movie itself and about specifically the performance.
Yeah.
That
nominations.
Renee Zellweger is doing in terms of the performance of Judy, saying it's very well done. So at least that's the early stuff that I've heard. So I'm sure maybe within this week we'll hear a little bit more. But it is, I would say, as you say, David, it's been pretty low key in terms of the buzz. As far as seeing trailers and stuff like that, haven't seen much on TV for it. So yeah.
I mean, I've only seen that one trailer. Excuse me, that I think I sent to you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Months ago. But it's like in the same vein of that. Like, I haven't seen a single trailer outside or real big advertisement for Gemini Man. I texted you guys that a while ago, and that kind of concerns me. Is like, the only time they don't really get behind the marketing is when they kind of start to not have faith in the film, and that makes me kind of worried because it looks really cool, but it could and maybe it's not delivering like they expect.
I don't know. I guess I feel like I have seen a decent amount of stuff for Gemini Man.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm not saying, I don't think it's been like flooded in marketing, but
Right.
I feel like I've seen a decent amount.
I feel like the only time I've ever seen promotion for Gemini Man has been for the trailer it plays in front of movies right now. Otherwise,
Yeah,
I feel like
true.
I haven't seen it on TV.
That's very true.
I've not seen billboards. I've not heard it on radio advertisement. You know, like I'm not hearing about people talking about it. It's not in Jabber. I'm not seeing it like on the morning shows.
I have heard people talking about it.
See, I haven't. Like, I've literally, the only time I've ever seen it is when it, and I will say, it's played in front of almost every movie I've seen in the last, like, month. I will for sure admit. It has played a lot,
really has.
but it's only been the theaters. I've not really seen any talk about it on the morning shows. And unfortunately, going back to Judy, it's the same way. Literally until this Sunday morning episode show on CBS aired, I really haven't seen anybody talk about Judy, but at the same time, like, you know, in the way that you know how CBS Sunday Morning is, they kind of build things up and they say, oh, they will pull reviews and kind of go over them, and they were pulling reviews and showing them, and there is a lot of praise for Renee Zellweger's performance as Judy Garland. So I will say that does interest me, and I'm excited for that. But yeah, there's not been a lot of buzz about that movie, and I haven't seen a lot of buzz about Gemini Man, and it's weird.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
But I've seen a lot of promo for Abominable. Man, I see trailers for that all the time.
Well, yep.
Abominable Man.
I can't tell you. Abominable.
Yes.
Yeah, that also comes out this weekend.
It
so
does.
Judy and Abominable. Abominable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Joker the following week. So.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna be a rough week.
Well, Joker tickets go on sale tomorrow, right? I think.
I believe that's.
I have
when
my
it's-
reminder set on my AMC app, so
Good luck
we're
with
going
that.
to see if it ever does it, because it hasn't done it on the last 5 movies I've set a reminder set for. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that, we are going to wrap things up. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com with your questions and comments. We are on Instagram and Twitter, Flicker_effect. On YouTube, youtube.com/flickereffect. All the places. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks for listening.